Hello and welcome, FPL managers. Welcome to Ghana Football Fantasy, and of course, we are back for double game week 23, and there is quite a lot to discuss in double game week 23, and of course, there is a particular team that kind of gives us all the ecstasy and also gives us a lot of a headache. So it's a kind of two sides of the sword, I would say. I would rather call it. But anyway, before we get into that double game week 23, I just want to make a short announcement that the double game week 25 has been announced. And if you are not aware, do check out our page. We have already published. It's Liverpool and Wolves, and Everton and Arsenal are already doubling in 25 beside the blank. So it's going to be a double blank game week 25. Yeah. So in short, we are going to write BDGW. Yeah. 25. Yeah. But anyway, that's 25. Let's not get too ahead of ourselves, to be honest. We are here for 23 and we have a lot of to discuss. And there is a particular person you probably noticed. You see two familiar faces, of course, and there is another person right on top beside my screen. You see, and it's Alex Michel who's joined us. I mean, before I ask Alex to speak, or before I ask anything, just wanted to thank all the audiences for joining us today. But predicting Pep is a difficult choice, to be honest, and it's been the FPL community has come up with the term called Pep Roulette, which is a beautiful term, of course, and it just kind of summarizes or captures the very essence of the headache that Pep Guardiola gives us every week: whom to bench, who's going to play, why he's not playing. We thought he was definitely starting, nailed rather, and that just doesn't happen. And it's a difficult choice that we as an FPL managers have to make every week. But there is this person, Alex Michel, who goes by the Twitter handle called _MCFC. He's a big Manchester City fan, and besides supporting Manchester City, he also does a lot of tactical analysis for Manchester City. Decided to take up this difficult job of trying to predict Pep. I wish I didn't take this job. I'm very happy that I didn't take this job, because then I would never have this show and you would never see our channel ever after 2-3 game weeks, because I think it would be a nightmare. But he has the knack for it and he has the interest for it, and he's done it for several game weeks. And he's here, and his accuracy, I can tell you, is pretty good. Yeah. I think it's 7 or 8 out of 11 is most of the times you get the calls right, Alex, if I ask?
Yeah, on average for the season, I'm just above 9 out of 11.
9 out of 11. So that's basically getting 2 people wrong out of the 11 people that play for Manchester City. And it's not like, it's given that, like the backline is always nailed, the midfield is nailed. It's just predicting 4 people who's going to play in front. No, that's not the case with Manchester City. We all know that. So predicting that 11, except I think Ederson, predicting the 10 can be very, very difficult job. But he does it,
It's
and he
nothing.
has
It's nothing
decided to
short
join
of
us.
miraculous. I think getting to Pep said, predicting the lineup. I think it's nothing short of a miracle. So good job well done, mate.
Thank you.
It is, and I think it's glad that he's decided to join us on a week that matters, because it's Manchester City that doubles, and there is Kevin De Bruyne being benched last week. Very few people called it. Of course, he was one of them. Luke was another one who called it as well. But there are very few people who does this difficult job, and they call it, and it comes right. And kudos to you for that. But yeah, thank you so much, Alex. Glad to have you on the show, and this is your first appearance. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you guys for having me. It's a pleasure. How are you two doing?
Well, I'm at least fine, having a good game week so far. I'm just a bit concerned with the whole Casemiro red card, because I have my triple captain on Bruno Fernandes,
Mm.
and I wonder if Casemiro's absence would make Bruno Fernandes play deeper or not. That's the worry I have. But beside that, yeah, it's all good. Ashfaq, what
Awesome.
about you?
Yeah. So I had a bit of a gamble. I think me and Nadim Bhai both had a bit of a gamble with the triple cap chip. So we both went for Fernandes. We did not go with the Rashford. We did not go with the popular choice. So Nadim Bhai had his reasons. My reasons for triple captain Fernandes was that I was upward chasing. I wanted to gain some ranks. So it's not a disaster so far. I wish Rashford did not have that assist in the first time, but so far so good. So again, I don't think I have any chance of catching up to Nadim Bhai this season because he's already, he was, I think, 80 points above me. Now he's around 100 points. So, yeah, it's a funny season. Nadim Bhai is topping our mini league and Arsenal, leading the league. So it's been a funny season.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
hopefully the Bruno triple cap comes good for you guys in the end, somehow.
Yeah, let's hope for the best, and I'm looking forward to the game tomorrow. But anyway, let's get. There's a lot to discuss today, audience, and of course, please do send your questions by 11:50. Alex would be happy to answer all the Manchester City related questions. The rest of the questions will be answered by Ashfaq or by me. But if you are sending any questions related to Manchester City, it will be Alex who will be answering it. He'll be discussing a lot about Manchester City, so most of your questions will most likely be answered. And to take you through that, but before we go into that, let me just bring up the thing about it. It is Double Game Week 23 that we are going to discuss today. And what we could do before you get into the details of it, or before we get into the details of it, please do give us a follow, like, and subscribe if you haven't. And of course, we more than welcome a review, an honest opinion, of course, be it a criticism or a wonderful feedback, whatever you think is appropriate. Just being honest would be very much appreciated. So please do so. And of course, all the stats that you see here are from the Fantasy Football Scout members area. Ghana Football Fantasy is the only page, FPL related page in Bangladesh, that is a member of the Fantasy Football Scout Network. So we do appreciate it, all the support that we get from Fantasy Football Scout. If you want to be better at FPL, please use the underlying data. And of course, if you want to buy the membership and get a discount price, please do click on the link that is there on the thing, and you would probably get about a 15% discount. So we would appreciate you doing that. And there is another short announcement. So we do have another group, and most of us have lost the sort of after the restart, having a terrible season. Some of us have already given up, and also because of the break on the World Cup. So people have lost a bit of interest in FPL, and some, not all managers, but most of the teams are, let's just call it dead teams. Yeah. So those of you who are still playing and you still don't see any chance of winning any of the mini leagues, this is a mini league that you can join. The league code is given TMM093. The winner gets Bangladeshi taka of 10,000. You need to be a Bangladeshi in order to qualify or play this game, because we will not be able to transfer the money abroad. So in case you're watching from abroad, unfortunately, this is not the league we ask you to join. But if you are staggering somewhere, in your mini league, please do feel free to join this league. This league will count from game week 12. So all the points that you have got after game week 12 or game week 12 onwards will be counted. So your ranking will not be usual. It will only be from game week 12 onwards until now, and then it will continue. The league closes very soon, so please do join using that code. And thanks to FanTalk BD FPL for supporting FPL and, of course, promoting FPL in Bangladesh. Right. Alex, so before we get into this, I'm going to stop talking now, to be honest, because I know I have invited you here to actually talk a lot about Manchester City, and I'm going to stop talking very soon. But before I do, I just wanted to know, and I think there's a lot of people here who are watching right now are curious about the fact that, what inspired you to actually start predicting Pep? And the second question would be, how difficult do you find it?
Yeah, so I started doing just general FPL Twitter content like in this preseason consistently. And once the season started going, I think I don't really know what urged me to start in the first place. I think just I saw Luke doing it, I saw a few other people doing it. I wasn't really aware of the hive mind predictions at that point, but I thought, let me take a chance and try to start doing it. And then I got I think 10 out of 11 game week 1 or 9 out of 11, and then I got 11 out of 11 game week 2. So it sort of roped me in to want to do more. And from there, I joined the Hive Mind predictions that Jump the Wave runs on Twitter, and have just sort of constantly doing it just to try to be a help to the FPL community. Pretty much that's the reason that I do it. And it's been obviously much more difficult as of late. I have tried to sort of craft a process where even if I get some wrong over a long period of time, generally it should come well. And that process is mostly by going through the formation, going position by position, this sort of like feedback loop of going through that, looking at the odds, etc. And in the end, I just sort of look at the odds that I create. I take into consideration the tactical ideas, who I think has the better chance to start, and just put out what I think is most likely to happen pretty much. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't.
Well, thanks. I mean, first and foremost, I mean, I've repeated myself and I'm going to repeat again. It's a difficult job, and I have followed Luke for about long time to know, how difficult he finds it. Jump the Wave, Anna. She is doing a marvelous job. You're part of the team as well, who are part of, contributing to the whole prediction game that they have, which is great. But then again, sometimes it happens and sometimes it doesn't. But I think most of the time that the fact that you get it most of the time correct is worth appreciating, to be honest. So yeah, kudos to that
Yeah,
one.
I speak for everyone when I say that Alex has been a blessing for the FPL community, because up until then the Pep's predictions or the getting into Pep said there was nothing short of impossible. So I think he's a godsend, or he's been a bit of a blessing here. So thanks a lot, man.
I appreciate
Second
that.
that. Second that. Right. So I mean, Alex already in his brief introduction kind of slightly mentioned about, going through the tactical analysis, looking at the formations and everything and all that, the odds and everything that comes into, becomes a factor in him coming up with the predictions every week. We are not going to have all the odds right now. What we are going to definitely do is going into a lot of tactical and a lot of information based on which Alex would be able to already. I think he's working on his background already, which he'll be able to share very soon on Twitter somewhere this week. But before that, I think the work is a bit in work in progress, to be honest. So in that case, what we are going to do is, all the information that he's going to do or he's going to share and analyze, I think it will help him to at least contribute to some of the predictions that he's already going to make, which is going to be shared later in the week. So without that, I'll ask Alex to first discuss the Manchester City schedule overall. Alex, take us through.
Yeah, before we get in too deep with everything, I think just one thing to keep in mind is, a lot of times we can go on the FPL app or website and you see game week 23, 24, 25, but you don't see the fixtures in between. So I just wanted to throw this screenshot in, most particularly because we're not just bringing in City assets for this week, we're bringing them in ideally at least through game week 25 and probably further than that. And when we look to game week 24, the Nottingham Forest match, and then game week 25, the Bournemouth match, I think it's just worth noting that the Forest match is only 4 days before the City's Leipzig tie in the round of 16 first leg. And then the Bournemouth match is only 3 days after that match. So we can expect a lot of rotation from Pep. Just, it's going to happen just because of the short turnaround. So just a sort of disclaimer with all of the City assets, and something to keep in mind is that you really can't expect 4 out of 4 starts from anyone in this next run of 4 games from double game week 23 to game week 24. And so you have to sort of take that with a pinch of salt. And then game week 25 is obviously really important as well, with the blanks and doubles coming there. So that's just something to keep in mind before we get in too deep with everything.
Any questions from you, Ashfaq? You seem to be pondering a bit.
No, I fully agree with him. So because we are always, when we're transferring FPL assets, we look at the upcoming fixtures, and they have good fixtures. But what we don't take into consideration is how the other fixtures are coming into contention, because the FA Cup and the Champions League ties are, well, obviously not much. It's not much days apart between the Premier League fixtures, and in theory, easier fixtures like the Bournemouth game or the Nottingham Forest game. In theory, the easier fixtures. Obviously, I think Pep is supposed to, prioritize maybe the Champions League games, because Leipzig is probably a trickier game to consider. So in that case, that is something most managers should take into consideration. I do have some questions with some Man City assets, but I'll come to that later. No worries.
Yeah, probably we'll discuss that when we go through the assets. So let's go to the next one, which is like looking into a little bit of the city formation, which has gone through a little bit of change. But I'm not going to get into that details. I think we have Alex here to discuss that. So, Alex, over to you about the city formation.
Yeah, so I don't want to go too deep into this. I could talk about this for a while, but pretty much the important thing to understand here is that before the World Cup, City were very consistent with the formation that we were putting out and the sort of personnel that we were putting out. At that point, predictions were a lot easier than they are now. And what was happening back then is Cancelo would be playing pretty much every game, mostly at left back, and then we'd have either John Stones or Kyle Walker playing at right back, sometimes inverting into a back three, but most often it would be a sort of 2-3 defensive setup where you have two center backs dropping deep, you have Rodri in the center, and then you have Cancelo and Walker or Stones, whichever right back it is, on either side of him. After the World Cup, however, Pep sort of shocked everyone. And we saw Cancelo fall out of favor and Walker fall out of favor for Rico Lewis and Nathan Ake. And what's happened is what you're seeing on the screen here, where in possession, and this is showing the average positions from City's recent game against Wolves. And what we can see here is that there's quite clearly a back three with number 5, who I believe is Stones or Walker, 25, who's Akanji, and then 14, who's Laporte. And so in possession, there's sort of 3 center backs who form a back 3. And in front of them, we have Rodri, number 16, and Rico Lewis, number 82, as this sort of double pivot where it's pretty much a 3-2. And you see Gundogan there as number 8, who's dropped in a bit deeper. But pretty much what happens is Rico Lewis from either the right side or the left side will invert inside alongside Rodri, and then there will be 5 attackers ahead of them. And Gundogan in this instance, who's number 8 there, sometimes Bernardo Silva, will act as the one attacker out of that 5 who sometimes drops back as well. And so what's important to consider here is that I really do think this formation will persist into for the rest of the season pretty much as the primary formation. The reason being, now that Cancelo has left, and I think Cancelo's departure also sort of signals that he didn't think he was going to really get back into the squad very much. But what it signals is that in this 3-2 formation, Rico Lewis is very well suited to it, and he's been playing it amazingly. And Nathan Ake is very well suited to this wide left center back role that Laporte can also play. When we think about the other potential formations that City could set up with a flat back 4, for example, or with the 2-3 that we were playing before the World Cup, it just doesn't really suit our players at the moment, at least on a game week by game week basis, to keep using a formation over and over. So you'll see me reference it in the future when I talk about specific assets, but it's just something worth keeping in mind that I expect this 3-2-5, as I described it, to persist primarily for the rest of the season, and with that, certain players are in favor more than others.
Right. Do you see, because of this particular formation, do you see a bit of an overload when they are kind of transitioning or kind of moving forward, in terms of attack, or do you see what I've noticed, to be honest, and this is what I'm asking your opinion about, is that I see a bit more, a bit too many assets of Manchester City in the opposition half, when they have the ball. Before, it was mostly the midfielders who were kind of, doing the passes around, trying to find a channel that through which they can pass the ball. But now I see a lot of overloads. And do you see, I mean, do you see from this particular formation, the main question is, do you see, because of this overload, the potentiality of, points, I mean, except Haaland, do you see it dividing, or do you see, like, being centered around Haaland only and not any other assets? I mean, you don't have to mention, but because we can discuss the assets later.
Yep.
But what I'm asking is that,
Yeah, and it's tough to say. I think to sort of take a little step back, the main reason that Pep opted for this formation is because of the defensive stability first. I think this was a defense first formation idea from Pep, where it helps City to not get counterattacked because you have a bit more width and a bit more security with the three center backs. And the effect that that has had on the attack is, like you say, there's some different overloads and different attacking patterns that we're seeing, but also at the same time, it's been sort of a work in progress at the same time, because Pep was so focused on the defense, is what I'm assuming. The attacking formations and patterns, maybe it's just because the players haven't had much time to play with this formation, but it's been a bit tricky, and we've seen City have some sort of lackluster performances where the attack hasn't really come through. So I think it's tough for me to say at the moment how that dynamic specifically will play out in the future. And it's kind of just an unknown at the moment. Obviously, Haaland will keep being Haaland, but as the question you brought up of sort of, will the goals be spread around more? Does it favor one position more than the others? I'm not really sure yet, in all honesty.
right. Okay, so I think let's just take the schedule and the formation in mind.
I have one or two queries.
Go ahead.
My question is regarding the defense is twofold. Number one is that that's a great analysis. I think it's spot on. My query is that first of all, that so they have actually tweaked the formation, which you have seen. They've gone from a wide attacker to a three center back formation, etc. Sometimes a Christmas tree formation, you can say, sorta. So although they have focused on the defense and they have showed up the defense, my first query is that although I probably agree with you that they're probably focused on the defense, but the fact of the matter is that I don't think the defense is actually looks as solid as pre-World Cup, pre-World Cup City. Although they are focusing on the defense, I think post World Cup the only clean sheet they have kept was against Wolves. So although they have taken some time to maybe focus more on their defense, the fact of the matter is they're still leaking goals. They are not keeping clean sheets, and whenever we are investing in city defenses, it's traditionally we at least get a little more output, but that has not been the output, at least post World Cup games. So my first question is that do you think that with the defense already leaking goals, and that do you think there would be a further change in formations? Because I don't know if the defense looks as solid as the previous formation. My second question is I'll be quick. My second question is that although because like you said, I am sure it's a work in progress from Pep. And the defense does not look as solid. So, do you believe that City defense is still worth targeting? Because I've seen a lot of FPL managers still, considering City assets, but with them leaking goals and Chancellor not being there and not being such an explosive options anymore. So, do you think still City defense is something to prioritize over other more stable defenses like Newcastle or Arsenal?
All the observations you brought up are extremely important. And like you say, even though I sort of say the intention, I believe, from Pep is to make the defense a bit more solid. Recently, which here are the stats. We haven't been performing notably that much better in defense. One of the first games back, we drew to Everton on the Damari Gray screamer, which was their only shot on goal. And then against your team, United, we lost to pretty much a few counter-attacking goals, especially one where Walker was supposed to be the guy preventing the counterattacks, and he bombed forward, and he wasn't there to stop the counterattack when it came. And so for the first point about potential changes moving forward and some uncertainty there, as much as and there has been tension, especially with City supporters, against Pep, of saying, why are you changing the formation when we're not seeing the results that we want to see? Pep has been saying, oh, I like the patterns that I'm seeing, etc. And I think there are a few underlying stats that we'll see here that are like, it'll show that the defense is performing about the same as before. It's not worse off than before the World Cup, but it certainly isn't much better. And so there definitely could be changes that we see in the future as Pep continues to sort of tinker around. But at the same time, I personally don't see what options he really has because of the sort of defensive assets that we have at City. There isn't much flexibility to play anything other than this 3-2. He can do it on a game-by-game basis, like when it comes to UCL knockouts. When it comes to the game against Arsenal in double game week 23, the tactics are sort of out the window in a way because Pep will do for that one match whatever he thinks is best. But when we look at it long term, I just don't see personally how Pep can go with anything other than this 3-2. He can definitely see who works better, Ake or Laporte at left back. He can see if there's a different option to Rico Lewis as that inverting midfielder. But I just struggle to think of the variations that Pep can come out with. And so then with the second question was about targeting City defense, right?
Right.
In terms of FPL. And yeah, it's something that I've talked about on Twitter a decent amount, is that we really have to sort of recalibrate our perception towards City defenders, because the past few seasons under Pep, they've just been the first or second best team to target for defenders in FPL across the board. And that's not what it is anymore. Like you brought up with Arsenal and Newcastle, there are just teams that are performing better defensively than City, who have assets for cheaper even. Obviously, we have Rico Lewis now, 3.9 million. But other than that, the Arsenal and Newcastle defenders are generally cheaper. And so generally, yeah, I would target them first. And City defense is not something that I'm really looking at personally. I've been steering clear. I haven't had a City defender for a while. I probably won't be bringing one in for double game week 23. But at the same time, we do have a double game week. The fixtures are there. If you can get a defender that somehow plays in game week 25 when other assets have a blank, then City defenders are still worth thinking about, of course, but they're definitely not top priority anymore.
Yeah, thanks. I think that concludes to an extent, what we were trying to get into through the formation and things. But all things, macro, and then coming down to the very details of, which assets and which FPL managers would like to go where is what I think is more interesting for us as FPL managers.
Yep.
But yeah, these are good discussion to keep in mind, because moving forward we'll be getting into those details. And of course there are so many dilemmas that the managers are facing currently, at least when it comes to City assets. And I think there are some challenges which we have actually brought in sort of like a hot topic. So let me just bring that up, and then we can go straight into the hot topic discussions. Now, there are three hot topics that we thought would be very kind of important and quite suitable for this particular game week. And I've seen a lot of managers actually finding this sort of like challenges already. So having you, Alex, here, we thought if you could discuss this. So yeah, first one is basically, beside Haaland, who are the other two option players, one attacking and one defensive, should we target as a priority transfer?
Yeah, attacking, I would say it definitely has to be KDB. I think a lot of people will be a bit put off with him after he got benched versus Spurs this past weekend. But like we saw when City played Spurs the first time a few weeks ago, Pep opted for Julian Alvarez in that match anyways. And so for me, that was, and Pep even quoted, there was a quote from an interview afterwards that the selection of Alvarez over KDB was strictly tactical. And when we look ahead to the Villa match and the Arsenal match, it just seems to me that KDB KDB's odds to start are really no different than they were before. And I just think that, KDB hasn't been a great fantasy asset of late. The returns haven't came, even though his underlying stats have been good. And obviously, it's frustrating to have a 12 million or so attacker be benched at certain points. But at the same time, with a double game week, with the fixtures after that, and especially with the crucial blank/double game week 25, I think KDB is just too good of an option to let slip through your hands in a way. I don't think it would surprise anyone if he exploded in double game week 23, if he came back with 2 or 3 returns or more. And I think it's just really a decision of, do you want to bet against that? And maybe some people, their team won't be flexible enough to get to KDB. But for me, KDB is 100% the attacking asset alongside Holland that everyone should be targeting. In terms of a defensive asset, I think the most honest answer is that there really isn't a clear-cut choice, along with what we just talked about of City defense not being as attractive in general in recent times. With the uncertainty around this formation, with Diaz coming back from injury, there's a lot of uncertainty around minutes. And I'm sorry, I meant to send you my tentative double game week odds. I just slipped my mind last night after I posted it because I was doing it right before bed. But I've been working through my tentative double game week 23 odds, and it's really difficult to find a defender that you can expect to start 2 out of 2 games. And especially with, the first game, Villa at home, you expect City to keep a clean sheet. Whichever defenders start in that match, you want to have from an FPL perspective. They would be good assets to own. The Arsenal match, regardless of rotation, regardless of it being a double game week, it's just not a good week for City defenders. It's just not a good game for City defenders. I expect Arsenal to score against us. I think most City fans would. So for me, the question is what is this double game week? What's the value of it for a City defender? Because a lot of us have fond memories in the past of Stones scoring 27 points, DS scoring 18 points in the same double game week. I just don't see the potential for that to happen. So my general advice would be that there's really not a defender to target. And I'll talk about Ederson particularly in a second. If I were to target one City defender, however, it would be Manu Akanji, and if you want to go budget, I think Rico Lewis is also a great option. I'll get into. Should I talk about them two now in particular, or should I save that for later?
Yeah, more than welcome. I'll just bring up the slides for you. Yeah, please go ahead, Alex.
Yeah, the thing with Akanji, pretty much, which this is great. So Akanji joined a few weeks into City season. And if you could actually go back to the overall starts for me real quick, the team stats, because there's something there I want to point out. Akanji joined, and if you look on the left, this is a screenshot from FBref that's sorted by starts throughout this entire Premier League season. And you see Akanji is quite high up on the list there. He's 7th on the list with 14 starts. And he joined, it was either in game week, it was around game week 7, 8, and 9. So he joined quite a few game weeks after the season started, and he's still already up there for starts in total for the City squad. Part of that is down to Diaz being injured for a period of time. Part of that is down to Stones being injured now. But when we look at game week 23 in particular, John Stones is hurt right now. He's out with a hamstring injury for another 2 to 3 weeks. So there's no chance of him starting in this double game week. And when I go back to thinking about this 3-2 in possession formation, at right center back, there are 3 options for City: Akanji, Diaz, and Walker. And at center back, there are also three primary options for City: Akanji, Diaz, and Laporte. And so because Akanji can start at either center back or right center back, and because I think that he is sort of at the top of those ranks for either position, I just think he's a safer bet to get as many starts as possible long term, or not long term, short term in double game week 23 in particular. So when I look at my odds, and sorry I didn't send them to you, I really meant to.
No worries. No worries.
But right now, so pretty much what I do with my odds is I combine the odds from both games to get odds to start 1+ game in the double game week and potential odds to start both games. And Akanji, with my odds at the moment, is by far the best out of all the defenders. He's pretty much 100% to start at least one game in the double game week. I would be extremely surprised if Akanji is benched in both games. And he's around 80% to start both games in the double game week, which, considering the other figures for the other players, is really high. When I look at the other options, Diaz is coming back from injury, and he's pricey in fantasy. I expect him to be brought back into the fold, but I don't expect him to get that many minutes that quickly. Walker can only really play at right center back, and he hasn't been great. In the last game against Spurs, his performance was really quite subpar. Walker could get a start, especially against Arsenal, against Martinelli on that wing, but I'm really sort of low on Walker's starting odds. Laporte is sort of being eased back in from an injury. He could start at either left center back instead of Ake or center back, but similar to Diaz, his price is a bit too high. So all those guys are off the table, sort of, and we're left with looking at Nathan Ake, Manu Akanji, and Rico Lewis pretty much. And I know a lot of people will be hot on Nathan Ake because he's been one of those players at the forefront of this sort of defensive revolution, and he's looked so good at that left center back position. And I certainly have Ake as I might predict Ake to start both games in the double game week, but he's definitely not as sure of a bet as Akanji is. And the primary reason for that is because he can only play left center back in that back three, whereas Akanji can play center back or right center back. Nathan Ake can only play left center back. And he has Aymeric Laporte, who's breathing down his neck trying to get into that spot. And honestly, long term, I do think that Laporte is the better defensive option for City than Ake there. So I know that a lot of people will be very high on Nathan Ake, and I do think he's a fine FPL pick, but there's just uncertainty, especially long term, over his starts at the left center back position with Laporte coming in. And with a short turnaround between these two games, I could very well see Pep opting for Ake at left center back in one game and Laporte at left center back in the other game. And then that leaves Rico Lewis, who is the second highest defender on my starting odds. So pretty much to be a bit clearer, in my starting odds for double game week 23 at the moment, Akanji is the best defender in terms of straight up expected minutes, pretty much. Lewis is the next, and then Ake is third. And with Lewis, it seems that he's, a main guy in this new formation, but at the same time, there's just a lot of uncertainty still over him as an FPL asset. One being that there are other players who can play in that inverted role. Bernardo Silva can play there from elsewhere. Maybe other players can play there. And the other thing is substitutions. We've seen a lot recently that Rico Lewis is frequently subbed out, frequently subbed in if he doesn't start, and that's really not what you want from a City defender FPL asset. So all in all, if I were to target a defender, although I don't think that it's really worth targeting a defender, and I don't think that there's a standout option by any means, Manu Akanji would be my favorite pick of the bunch at the current moment.
Thanks. I think that's exactly what the managers wanted to hear, to be honest. And I think there are a couple of questions that has come in related to that, but we'll come and answer those questions again. Just wanted to let everyone know who are watching currently, you have basically 2 minutes left to send your questions. All Mancity questions will be answered by Alex. The rest of us will answer the other 19 teams that are in focus for this game week. Yeah. So if you have questions, please do send it. You have just 2 minutes left. After 2 minutes, any question that comes in or registered in our system, we will not be able to answer those, or else, this show will never end. Sorry, guys. Thank you so much for all the cooperation, of course. And Alex, thank you so much. I mean, Akanji and Ake, I think it's very clear. KDB is.
I have a bit of a comment regarding Akanji, but I'll let Saif introduce. Nadim bhai introduce Saif to Alex first before I take my comment.
Yeah, I was getting into that. Then you decided to speak, so thanks. Anyway, Alex, this is our colleague, of course, and our partner here in Ghana Football. Saif is joined us since 2021, and it's been already 2 years. And yeah, he's one of the most renowned Bangladeshi managers in Bangladesh. And of course, as per the FPL tools, both of them are actually the ones below. I'm not in their level, so ignore me. I'm just the host here. Yeah, probably having a one season wonder. But beside that, these guys are consistent ones, and they are in according to fantasy Premier Tools. Both of them are 16th and 17th overall in Bangladesh for all-time FPL managers. So yeah, I'm very glad that they decided to join us and not go and join somewhere else. So yeah, privileged to have them. And Saif, yeah, this is Alex Michel. Of course, you know him on Twitter.
Hi,
Yeah,
Alex.
there you are.
Awesome. Hey, Sai,
Finally,
how's
me
it
too. I
going?
have been following you for a while. Just
Appreciate
this
it.
evening, I was reading your thread about a possible free hit in double game at 25.
Yeah.
Good to finally meet you. Sorry for the delay. I was stuck with some stuff, so sorry for the being late.
Yeah.
Right.
So Alex, just for reference, Saif is newly married, so he has some stuff to take care of, because him being newly married, etc.
Congrats.
Completely forgivable. Completely forgivable. So what I was trying to say is that I actually took Akanji in Game Week 17 after the restart. So I in the beginning I thought it was a shrewd move because I looked at the percentage of starts which Man City's asset defender started after highest matches started after Cancelo, and I saw that Akanji is right up there, and I thought it was a shrewd move, but Akanji actually, because of City leaking goals, etc. Obviously, they were a bit unlucky, but they were not. Akanji has disappointed me for the last 7 or 8 game weeks. But in the beginning, I thought it was because of his low ownership and high percentage of starting, not many people would target him. They will more target someone like Ake or Diaz or Laporte. So Akanji has been starting all of the games post restart, but it's a bit unlucky for me that he did not give the output that I predicted he would give.
Yeah, the returns still aren't coming, which is the disappointing part to it.
Right.
Right. So we have Saif, so don't worry about the long questions. All the long questions will go to Saif anyway. That's just sort of like a running gag here.
It should be a punishment for him.
Yeah, it's usually all the long questions fall to him. So yeah, big questions. People send their rate my team and stuff, which we also do. So yeah, all those questions usually fall to Saif. So beside Manchester City,
Big
if you have a long
conspiracy.
question, rate my team, colleagues, friends, FPL managers, please do send it. Saif is there, and we'll be happy to answer. Right. Okay, let's go to the next hot topic. And I think we are already getting pretty close in terms of whom and what to do.
Can I say my one thing on Ederson first? I forgot to say that as well.
Yeah, sure.
I'll keep it very quick, and it's not that important because
go ahead.
A lot of people, I don't think many people are considering bringing Ederson in this game week, but a lot of people took him on game week 17 wildcard, etc. I just think it's worth saying that I don't think Ederson is an FPL pick whatsoever, really, because as much as he's one of the most nailed City assets, you just have to compare him to the other goalkeepers in the game. It's not like you're comparing him to an opposing defender. And when we look at what makes a good goalkeeper in FPL, one of the big things is saves and the ability to get a high ceiling, like we've been seeing with Kepa, of these 9-10 point performances. And Ederson, A, doesn't make a lot of saves because City don't let in a lot of shots. B, City normally score a lot of goals, so even when City keep a clean sheet, Ederson isn't anywhere near the bonus. And C, Ederson is really just not that great of a saving goalkeeper. If you look in the far right column with his save percentage, he's one of the worst in the Prem. He's below average in terms of saves, and it just reflects on him FPL wise. So a lot of people have been taking this sort of easy argument in a way of Ederson's the most nailed City defender, let's just pick him. But I think I'm here to sort of disclaim that and just say that look at the other goalkeepers when you're considering Ederson. He's just not a good pick. We can pretty much ignore him.
I echo that sentiment, Alex. And my theory has always been, as an FPL manager, is to go for the cheapest goalkeeper who would make a lot of saves, play for a team that is not way too leaky, but at the same time, the defense is not solid. Something like Burnley, for example, that comes into your mind, or even Henderson, for example, or even Sanchez. So yeah, those are the kind of goalkeepers that I usually go for. Usually they are cheap, 4.5. So yeah, never going for City or Ederson or Allison. Both the Brazilians are always out of favor when it comes to goalkeeping, for choosing a goalkeeper for FPL. So yeah, that's that. So let's get into the hot topic again. And the second one is pretty interesting in a sense. There has been a lot of discussion about Hokey Cokey, about KDB, Bruno KDB. Now, do you think should we transfer out Bruno to bring back KDB? Is that the big question? Because a lot of managers already have, considering the template. If you look into live FPL, people would have Haaland, people would have Kane, people would have Bruno, and then people would have Arsenal assets, and of course Newcastle assets. Yeah, and that's how it looks like, pretty much the template. Yeah. Now, considering that Bruno became a overnight star, and suddenly he's back, and now he's performing well, but he's playing Leeds tomorrow and then again on Sunday. And is it ideal to bring him back, KDB, considering that he's been benched for Tottenham Hotspur match? Of course, it is tactical. We all know that. But what's your view on it? Would be glad to hear that.
Yeah, and I'm interested to hear Ashfaq's view on this too, being a United supporter. My perspective on it pretty much comes down mostly to the idea and attitude that I have towards double game weeks. Some of you may have seen I posted. I've been using this like the idea of sword and shield that a lot of people talk about throughout the entire course of the season, and I think it really applies to double game weeks. And to try to summarize that for the audience, what I'm saying is that in FPL there are certain assets that we can consider as shields. Right now, Haaland would obviously be one of them, because if you don't own Haaland, you're going to plummet down the ranks whenever he scores. Arsenal defense is also one for this game week. KDB's ownership is quite high. He's sort of borderline. Rashford,
35%.
Sorry, what did you say?
35%.
Okay. And I think his EO is like 37 or something. So it's like right at that sort of cusp of being one or the other. But pretty much the idea is that in a double game week, the double game week players who have high ownership, especially if you think that they're good assets and they can hurt you, you want to cover those bases first. Like with an Arsenal defender, pretty much. I mean, most people who are active on FPL will have an Arsenal triple up for this double game week, but just for the sake of argument, if you go into this double game week without an Arsenal defender when their effective ownership is 75% plus, and Arsenal keep a clean sheet or two, then it's going to harm your rank by quite a lot. Same thing like if you don't captain Haaland this week, etc. So I think that you should look out for covering your bases first on that side. Then we get to the assets that are the sword assets, which is the ones that you can really make gains with. And this is extremely important in a double game week because you want to try to catch those hauls. You want to put yourself in a position to get lucky. And KDB is a borderline asset, but with the ownership being where it is right now, and it'll probably be, I would guess, around 50% to 60% effective ownership, there's room to gain from him in this double game week. And so personally, obviously it's team dependent. Obviously you might be in a situation where going from Bruno back to KDB doesn't necessarily make sense. Across the board though, I personally like it as a move. I think KDB just has the high enough ceiling in this double game week where if you go without him, you might regret it. It won't hurt your rank all that much considering his EO, but at the same time, you'll have missed that opportunity to get him, catch a haul, and go up the ranks even further. And the other side of it is, what are you missing out on with Bruno? And, if Bruno was a 90% owned asset that had, Leeds is a really good fixture, but, if he had like somehow an even better fixture than that, then the discussion would be much different. But with Bruno's ownership right now, selling him is probably just not going to hurt you that much, even if let's say he scores 10 points against Leeds and KDB only gets 5 points in all of double game week 23. Yeah, you'll be kicking yourself for making that choice, but at the same time, it won't have hurt you that badly, and you'll have taken that risk to try to go for the haul with KDB. So personally, I do like the move. I think the upside is there. I expect KDB to start too. I expect him to start in double gaming 25. I mean, in double/blank gaming 25 when he's also very important if you're holding him till then. It does feel a bit weird after all these performances with Bruno, and I get why people are tentative on it, but I just think that move makes too much sense to not do.
Thanks. Ashfaq, do you agree? Bruno to bring back?
Yeah,
KDB?
so I echo that sentiment. So regarding the double gaming for City, City attack is where you should target in the first place. Like Alex said, that defensive assets should not be the first priority, but if you do have a defense, probably not transfer them out. So obviously most managers already own Haaland. So the next question is which next attacker, one or two, you should target. So I think the most popular choice would be between Mahrez or KDB. And although, like Alex said, that Leeds is a good fixture on paper, if KDB does start both games, which Alex has suggested he might, then I think KDB has the highest ceiling. So I think if you don't have Bruno and you have Rashford, I think you can cover a bit of the attack or the bit of the points that United will come out of for the Leeds game, and going with the City attack is something you should target, and I think Bruno to KDB actually makes sense in that case.
Well, I have a slightly different opinion in this case. I got Bruno in Game 17, and of course, I'm enjoying all the points so far. Triple captained him. So yeah, hoping for the best, expecting him to continue. I think my major concern as to why I'm not going back from Bruno to KDB is because of KDB's recent form. I don't think so. I've seen KDB in such a lackluster form since I've played FPL or since he's become an FPL asset, to be honest. But that's my observation, to be honest. And I don't really, either it's, I don't know if it's down to luck or it's down to the performance or whatever it is, but I don't really see KDB really performing, and having an FPL asset. Of course, he's going to play two games. I'm quite confident about that, and Alex has kind of already mentioned that. But the thing is, I'm not quite sure whether having somebody who has a price of 12.4 million and then not being able to perform, because sometimes even a single game week, and Leeds. Another factor is that Leeds doesn't have their managers now. So they'll have a caretaker manager. Things needs to be sorted. The team is morally down completely because they haven't won a match, I think, for over the last 3 months or something. So I think tomorrow's match is a bit of a what do you call it? An opportunity that would allow us to actually go and see if Bruno to KDB would be an ideal move. Because I'm not saying that KDB is a bad shout. Just for audience clarification, I'm not saying he's a bad shout, but the reason why I wouldn't do Bruno to KDB, if I want to bring KDB, I'll probably bring him for another asset. But I think tomorrow's match is a kind of an opportunity where we get to see Bruno and how he's playing and whether he's playing deeper because of lack of Casemiro and others, and then make the call whether that should be the transfer. But right now, I have a different opinion in this case. Yeah.
So basically, you are auditioning Bruno, aren't you?
I am, and I don't want to really move away because Manchester United still has a good fixture, and I think they have a blank, so we can always bench, one Newcastle, one Manchester United.
So
That's
my
it.
question regarding this thing, okay, your argument makes sense. It made sense regarding Bruno last week as well. So my question is, okay, KDB has not probably provided us the point haul we got from Mahrez or elsewhere, but has his form really been that bad? I think if you look at the underlying stats are still there. I think he has been a bit unlucky. Wouldn't you agree on that? Because yes, in FPL terms of point, in FPL sense, he has not given us the hauls or he has given us the points. But you look at his XGI right after the restart. So Mahrez is 4.35, then KDB is still 4.04. So the stats are still there, right? So it's not that KDB is out of form. He's not playing bad per se. I think he might be a bit unlucky. I would like to hear Alex's thoughts on that.
Yeah, I'd agree. I mean, I think if you look at, because the two columns here aren't per 90, they're just straight up. And so with 14 appearances pre-restart and 6 appearances post-restart, if we multiply that XGI by about like 2.3, which it would be to scale it up to the amount of starts that he had before restart, then he's, like you said, he's just at the exact same pace as he was before. His XGI hasn't changed. And I do think that what you brought up, Nadim, about looking at, because Casemiro has a 3-match ban, right? He won't be available for the second Leeds match either. I think that's really important and something that I overlooked a bit. And I definitely would advise anyone to do the same that you said, of watch that United Leeds game, see how Bruno's playing, see how Leeds look, and because it's quite a extreme opportunity that we get in FPL where a team is playing back to back in the course of less than a week. And so, yeah, like you said, take advantage of that opportunity, and maybe I'll be swayed to say, no, keep Bruno, he's looking amazing. But I think the argument of thinking that KDB is worse off now is not the one to base your decision off of. Like Ashfaq was saying, I think the underlyings are still there. I would definitely say that he's been a bit unlucky, but it should be more about how you feel about Bruno, I would say.
Right. Yeah, I agree. Okay. And I think that's the thing. I mean, what I'm trying to say is basically, yeah, tomorrow's match is a sort of like a dress rehearsal for Sunday's match, and then your decision to whether make the Bruno to KDB and KDB to Bruno. And some people have done that already. So continue with the hokey cokey, of course. But again, the thing is, yeah, I just don't know what's up with Leeds. So yeah, Leeds might, and of course the next match is at Ellen Road, so that would be a different territory than compared to what's going to happen tomorrow at Old Trafford. So that's another factor that I would also take into consideration before I make that call. Yeah, thanks. I think let's go to the last hot topic, and then we have the zonal weakness, and after that we get straight into the questions. And audience, thank you so much for your patience. Of course, it's great. So the last question, of course, considering a manager has sufficient budget, then it is wise to sell Martinelli Almiron to bring in Saka and Mahrez for a -4 to target double gaming. I think there is a lot of interest for Mahrez because a lot of people have either lost faith in KDB and they have lost, or they don't have the budget or the capacity to actually move to KDB. I think it would be good, Alex, if you could shed a little bit of light on Mahrez itself, and of course, whether you think this is a sort of like an ideal transfer. And of course, I'll ask Ashfaq's view on what he thinks about Saka for this week.
Yeah. I mean, with that move in particular that's on the screen, I mean, I always like to try to break things down into their equal parts, where pretty much here you're thinking about, is Martinelli to Saka worth a move, and then is Almiron to Mahrez worth a move individually, because it can get a bit complicated looking at it together. To transition from Almiron to Mahrez, I think is a really good move this game week. I don't know what other types of midfielders. Almiron would definitely be the most popular one in sort of middle price range. I don't really know who else people are looking to sell for Mahrez or have in their teams. Maybe Solly March right now or something. But I do think that Mahrez is one to target and one to try to. He's definitely a sword asset by all means for this double game week. So I think it's generally a good move to bring him in, as long as you already have triple Arsenal, as long as you already have Holland, and I would say target KDB before Mahrez. But if you're of the mind that you like Mahrez more than KDB for whatever reason, maybe funds are the only reason, maybe you can't get to KDB, Mahrez is a great pick still. I do think that people should be a bit tentative with him, because we've seen, I think all of us know from our time of playing FPL, that you can see a City attacker, especially these mid-priced mids, go on a crazy run of form, and then when everyone hops on is the moment that they stop performing, pretty much, get rotated, someone else comes back into the lineup. Mahrez feels a bit different than normal because he's done this before, and by that I mean that normally around this time of year, Mahrez goes on a crazy run of form. Typically it's in the UCL. Typically it doesn't happen in the Prem. But right now, obviously, there's no UCL rotation yet, so Pep has been playing Mahrez there. And especially with Bernardo Silva and Phil Foden out of favor, Mahrez doesn't have tons of competition on that right wing spot. But with that being said, he is by no means nailed, not nearly as much as the other assets like KDB and Holland, pretty much. I could see Bernardo starting at right wing in either of these games. I could see Pep playing Holland, Alvarez, and KDB all together with KDB playing off the right flank. So I just don't think that anyone should be looking at this double game week and immediately expecting Mahrez to start both games because he's been in such good form, etc. It's obviously a possibility, but I think that that's something that people need to consider first. Once you get past that, there's still the opportunity there that if Mahrez starts even one of these games, he still has the ceiling to be able to get you a double-digit haul, which is what you're looking for with a double gaming player like this. But I don't know. I'm just a bit skeptic about his prospects, not necessarily for this double game week. I think they're okay. I don't see him as like a must-have. I don't see him as someone who's going to score 15 plus points. I think his ceiling for this double game week is probably, 12 to 14, that sort of range, which is still obviously amazing if he gets that. But the other issue is long-term holding him. And I think that once UCL rotation starts back up, Mahrez will be used. I expect Mahrez to start every UCL group stage game. And with that, he's going to get rotated in the Prem more and more. So long term, Mahrez doesn't fill me with much confidence when it comes to X minutes. Short term, he's still a good punt. If it's the easy move for you and you have triple Arsenal, then go for it. But with me, with my team personally, I'm in a spot where I can very easily get to Mahrez because I already have my triple Arsenal, I already have KDB, and I already have Holland. So I have one free transfer to use elsewhere on a punt. And Mahrez is the one staring me right in the face to bring in. But I just don't think I'm going to do it because, like I said, long term, I don't love his prospects. And short term, he has a ceiling, but I don't love the potential for this double game week for him.
So what's your prediction for about his expected minutes in the double game week 23?
So right now I have him at just above 90% to start at least one game. I think that's pretty clear. I don't think that anyone would object to Mahrez starting at least one of these two games. I think it'd be pretty crazy to see him benched twice. But to start both games, I have him as just under 50%. So I think that's pretty accurate. I think it's pretty much a coin flip as to whether Mahrez starts both of these games just because of the tactical tweaks that Pep could make, especially against Arsenal. So he's up there. He's in the sort of like second tier of City players for expected minutes, right alongside Grealish too, who is also a punt, but Grealish just sort of lacks the end product of late to be considered as an FPL asset. So I don't know. Mahrez is a good pick. He's definitely one to test your luck with if you have the space to do so. But there are a lot of factors that play into it that make it quite a questionable move in my mind.
So you're aiming for about 130 minutes, 120 minutes over two games, or slightly less than that?
Yeah, I'd say probably like 110 to 120.
110 to
my
120.
guess.
So basically 60-60, I would assume.
Yeah, pretty much. Maybe he starts one game and plays 70 to 80 or the full game, and the other game he gets subbed on. Maybe I just think that's probably like the middle road of what's about most likely.
Right.
Tough
All
to
right.
call with him.
Yeah. Ashfaq, over to you for Saka. What do you think?
So Sankalp last week made a compelling point regarding Saka. So because Arsenal is having a stellar season, and Saka is one of their main important players. So I think Saka over the season, I think is a long-term pick. Regarding the Arsenal assets, I think he's a bit of a differential as well because I think Odegaard's ownership has risen up to around 35%, and Saka is still around the 26% because Odegaard, being someone on form and being cheaper, easier to get in your team. So Saka, I think, is a bit of a differential ship. So in the long run, I think Saka will tick along, The advantage of Saka is on penalties. So even when he's not getting the assists, etc., Arsenal get a penalty, he'll obviously take it and you know and hopefully score. So on the long run, I think Saka is a good pick. He's also a good pick a bit differentially because most managers will probably target Arsenal in the long run because they are having a stellar season. They don't have Champions League or most cup games to consider, so risk of rotation is pretty less. So for me, Saka is definitely a move I would make if I was trying to gain some rank with other managers, because most managers will be targeting Odegaard rather than Saka. So Saka, with the Arsenal form and Arsenal's fixtures, I think is a bit of a differential punt, which personally I think I would make.
Okay, let me just put you into a sort of like a conundrum here. Yeah, let's just assume that Martinelli or Almiron, I have one asset. Yeah, and I'm supposed to bring in Mahrez and Saka or one of them. Yeah, one asset for one asset. Yeah, let's just
Right? You should
assume
stop
that.
making this making. You should stop making this show about your team. This is for the
No,
first
no,
thing
no.
you
It's
should
not
do.
about my. No, it's not about my team. It's not about my team. It's mostly about most managers wouldn't have Martinelli and Almiron. There might be just one case for, and they might be wondering, which, because City has rotation risks, and there is always this factor back of people's mind, and Pep Roulette kind of haunts them, to be honest. So let's just assume that if somebody is to decide between Saka and Mahrez with one transfer between either they have Martinelli or just have Almiron, who would be the priority then for you, Ashfaq?
So my question to that would be depending on your moves afterwards, because like we covered in the previous slides of this pod. So City does have the Champions League games coming up. They have the Bournemouth and the Nottingham games. The uh, fixtures are pretty congested with City. That's not the case with Arsenal, because Arsenal does not have the European commitments. They don't have the cup games as well. So if you do punt on Mahrez, it will be a short-term move, I think. You'll probably move back to someone with a more secure starting options after especially in the Champions League games. But if you bring in Arsenal assets such as maybe Odegaard or Saka, that is something probably you will be doing for a pretty bigger, longer run of games. So I think the answer to your question would be, what other transfers are you prioritizing after this double game week? So I think you should plan your transfers for game week 23 or game week 24 and 25 and move accordingly to see what kind of strategy you are looking into, for getting into those games, because the double game week has already been announced. Based on game week 22, most people has triple Manchester United assets. So with their blank game week coming up, you'll obviously be transferring them out. So those will be priority transfers over the next game week. So those, I think, would be factors in your decision making, for the long run.
Okay. All right. Okay. So I think that brings us to an end to the hot topic, and we'll just go straight into the zonal now. And for the first four, I'll ask Ashfaq to discuss through, and then the next five, Saif, if you can go through. Don't try to focus on all the players, just try to focus on the ones that are marked white. So, yeah, over to you, Ashfaq. And then we go to the questions after this. Yeah. So, audience, please hold on to with your questions. We'll come back to it very soon.
Right. So I'll be as quick as I can. So regarding the Arsenal and the City double game, I'll start with Arsenal first. So obviously the first game against Brentford, Nekata and Odegaard are prime options to own in your team. I think Nekataya is a one of the most popular transfers to bring in this week, because he's cheap. He's a bit of a target man for Arsenal. Uh, he's a bit of a fox in the box. So with his price point, I think he can do really good. Uh, Zonal weakness chances considered, Brentford is ranked worst uh, through the center. So Neketa and Odegaard on those games is someone you should own. City is a tricky asset altogether. Like Alex said, that it can go both ways. Arsenal might probably not might keep a clean sheet, or City might not. So we expect an end-to-end game altogether. But Nketiah and Odegaard should start both games with Jesus injured and Odegaard, being one of the forms of his life and him being the captain and all. So Nketiah and Odegaard should be the prime options you should target in if you're going for the Arsenal attack. Coming back to City, like already Alex covered that. Um, KDB is probably most of us already own Haaland. I don't think I know a manager who does not own Haaland. So the main question regarding this would be what other cities you should target. So the jury is out between KDB and Mahrez. So like Alex said, that if KDB does have a higher chance of starting, I think KDB is the way to go. Aston Villa, although they have improved defensively recently. They are all six worst for chances considered down the left side, which Mahrez or KDB can exploit. So Arsenal game again is a trickier one. It can go both ways. So I will not get deep into that. But after Haaland, I think KDB is the way to go. I already own KDB, so I expect good things from him. And if you don't own a third Man City asset, you don't own one of their defenses, then I think a triple up of Man City assets can be a shoot move as well.
Right. Okay, Saif, can you take it over from Leeds United until till Crystal Palace, please?
I've been listening for a while, so let me just give my 2 cents over the transfer plans. I think Arsenal players should be the number one target for every manager because they have two double game weeks coming up. They also play in both the blank game weeks coming up, so I think they should be the number one targets for every manager, and we should target the players who has less risk of rotation, like Saka and Odegaard. I think they will play most of the minutes, and Martinelli has some severe competition now from Trossard. I think he will be benched in the next game because he was disappointing the last game. He was brought out before the 60 minutes mark. I think Trossard might start the next game just to see what he can do before the City game. Because City is the biggest game for them. So I would do Martinelli to Saka even for a hit because Saka is a long-term hold, and Martinelli I don't think have much appeal. So going to Leeds, I think they have sacked Marsh, but I think he has been really unlucky because they have been playing well, and their defensive stats also suggest likewise. They have been playing well, but they have been really unlucky with the results. They just haven't been able to get the goals, and they have been conceding soft chances and soft goals. So they haven't been able to gain any points. But through the left flank, they have been quite leaky. So Bruno Fernandes might still outscore Rashford this game week. And Rashford is Rashford. I think he is in the form of his life. So after Haaland, I think he should be the number 2 pick in FPL right now. I think every active manager has Rashford right now. And going on to Leicester, Leicester has been defensively very poor this season. They haven't been able to sort out the defense, but they have been able to sort out their attack for the last few weeks. But their defense is still leaky. They have been conceding goals. So a Spurs punt can be a good one. And I think some managers have Kane. I think he can be a good hold because they also play in the blank game week 25. So I think we should target at least. We should hold or target players who are playing in the blank game week 25. And through the right flank, they are the most leaky team in the league. So Son, who has some good form in the last match, even though he did not score a assist, but he was really lively. I have watched the game, so Son can be a good punt. But I think our priority should be double game week players because we have two of the best teams in the league having a double game week coming up. So I don't think even if we take any punts, I think it should be for them. Like Mahrez can be a good punt. So next, moving on to Bournemouth, they have been really leaky. They are number first through the center, so Wilson can be a good option. And then through the right, they have considered lots of crosses. So Trippier is again, I think Trippier is after Rashford and Haaland. Trippier should be number 3. I don't also know any active manager without Trippier. So Trippier is, I think, in most of our teams, so he can have a great haul in this game. Just for I think most managers will be facing a benching headache. I have seen some managers team who has Trippier in the bench. I would not suggest that. Don't bench. So even though Newcastle considered in the last game after 6 games, I think they have really good potential for a clean sheet, and Trippier has a whole potential. And Everton, they are playing Liverpool. So I would not look to the stats, because that doesn't matter anymore, because those are most of the stats were under Lampard. He is not there anymore. Sean Dyche has taken over, and Sean Dyche has previous history over frustrating Liverpool with Burnley team. He has conceded 80%, 85% possession with his Burnley side, but managed to keep a clean sheet. So I think he'll do likewise. Everton was really outstanding against Arsenal. I think a similar result will come. So don't target Liverpool players, even though they have a double game week coming up. So avoid them for now and just assess before the double game week. And Crystal Palace, I am really surprised to see them so high in the defensive ranks. So they might have also been unlucky because their results have been poor, but they have been defensively really solid. So Brighton might not have as much joy as they have been for the last few game weeks. So if you have a benching headache, I think a Brighton player might be benched, just going by the zonal weaknesses. Thank you, Nadim bhai. I think I have covered all the last 5 teams.
Thanks, Saif. Thanks. I'm not sure if I would bench any Brighton players, to be honest. No, not with the luck of Mitoma points that I've gathered. So I'm not confident. Yeah, I would rather play him, and I understand the zonal says Crystal is ranked 19th, and I've only considered 3 chances down that flank. So yeah, but I would still play him. Yeah, I wouldn't. I think this is where the shield and the sword discussion comes into play again, which Alex kind of referred earlier. So, yeah, I would still suggest that people, managers who have Mitoma, or you have, I think March. I wouldn't really go with March, but I would rather go with Mitoma. If you have Mitoma, you still play him. That's what I would do. Anyway, I think that can kind of concludes our discussion, to be honest. And I think there is no more discussion that we need to have. Of course, there might be new things that we have probably didn't cover or might come up in the questions. Then we can get into a little bit of more discussion in that. But beside that, let's go straight to the questions. Audience, thank you so much for sending all the questions. I can see a volume of it, to be honest. And I just wonder, this will take quite a significant amount of time to answer if we get into a little bit of lengthy answers. So try and, guys, keep it very succinct and precise. Right, let's me begin the first comment, and it comes from Arabic Bhai. Arabic Bhai, thank you so much for joining, and of course, good to see you. You're a very frequent viewer, of course. Assalamu alaikum, Bhai. Walaikum assalam, brother. And then there is Humayun Kabir Rahat, who says, hey, brothers, hello, and good to see you, brother. And then James is saying, and it's live, so he basically posted that comment immediately after we went live. So thank you so much, James, for that. Sheikh Shuman then says, Ashfaq Bhai, Haaland, Trisi, or hold. Okay. As I said earlier, I am not going to pass any Manchester City related questions to Saif or Ashfaq. I'm going to give it only to Alex. So I'll ask Alex to discuss, because I don't think so we have discussed Haaland triple captain or this. So this has been one of the topics. So yeah, Alex, over to you. And you can discuss this a little bit more in details, whether Haaland should be triple captain or should we hold on to our chips?
Yep, very important question, obviously. I would personally be triple captaining Haaland in double game week 23 if I still had my triple captainship. I triple captained him back in double game week 20. I think if you ignored Rashford and Bruno this double game week, then I'd be asking, what else are you waiting for, pretty much? I expect Haaland to start both games in this double game week. Obviously, the game against Arsenal is not the best from an attacking perspective, but it's still 2 games for Haaland in a double game week. My question would more just be, what are you holding out for later if you're not? And I don't think that there's a great answer to that question, which is why I would say, yes, I would triple captain Haaland this double game week.
Right. Okay. So let's go to the next question. And I think this question has part of it with Manchester City and then part of it with Arsenal. So I'll ask the first part to Alex, and then second part, Ashfaq, if you can answer. We, I think, covered this already to an extent in the hot topic. But yeah, over to you, Alex.
The previous question was mine?
No. The second part of this question is yours. Yeah. The first part is Alex. Yeah.
I don't mind this move. I don't love it at the same time. I think if you want to move Martinelli to a different Arsenal asset, then I think that's what this comes down to. I would probably rather just use the free transfer to move Martinelli to Saka Odegaard instead of having to make the double swap for a hit to get to Nketiah. That's my perspective on it.
Ashfaq?
So Mitrovic to Nketiah is a move that I would make. My argument for that would be mainly the zonal weakness for the Brentford game. Brentford is, I think, the worst in terms of chances considered through the middle, and Odegaard and Nketiah, I think, is somewhere I think they can exploit. Nketiah with his price point is a easy get, easy sell type of guy. He also has a decent chance of starting, in every game in the short term at least, with Jesus being injured, and he's also performing consistently. So Nketiah, I think, is a move that I would definitely make this week.
Yeah,
Thanks.
if Sihan can make the Mitrovic to Nketiah move on its own, then that's an amazing move. I just read it more as that move is happening because they already have triple Arsenal and therefore they need to sell Martinelli as well. So yeah, if you could just buy Mitrovic for Nketiah, Nketiah for Mitrovic, then I think that's the best move here, if that's possible.
Yeah, I think that summarizes it, to be honest. So basically, we are suggesting don't go for -4, but yeah. Oh, look, Sankalp is here, and he says, "So good to see Alex at Ghana Football Fantasy." Yeah, Sankalp, good to see you, brother. Good to see you. Thanks so much. Yeah, and anyone else joining the Saka Triple Captain 25 gang? Well, let's do one thing, Sankalp. Why don't you come over and we'll discuss this? Yeah, we'll discuss this in Game Week 25. You are invited. You're invited. Please book your calendar and we'll get in touch soon. We are having you back again on the show to discuss Arsenal double game week in Game Week 25, Sankalp. Yeah, thanks for like basically feeding that into my mouth. So yeah, thank you so much. Right. All right. So the next question, then, not a question really, comment comes from Tanvitana. Hello, brothers. Yeah, thanks, brother. Then Shian Naim follows up with the previous question, is saying, are Bruno to KDB and Duarte to Ake? Alex?
Yeah, we talked about this a bit before, so I don't think I need to talk too much about the Bruno to KDB thing in particular. I think looking at the two comments that you have, I would... my advice overall would be if you already have triple Arsenal, then I think the Martinelli move to another midfielder is the most obvious if you want to get rid of Martinelli. Otherwise, I do just like moving Bruno to KDB and not taking a hit at all this game week. I think as I said before, I prefer Akanji and Lewis slightly to Ake if you do want to sell Doherty. But otherwise, just looking at the moves that you've laid out, I do think Bruno to KDB is the highest upside. And I, for one, I know a lot of people are talking about taking hits this week, and I do think that it's valid to take a hit to go from Martinelli to Saka, Odegaard, or Nketiah for the long term. But other than that move, I don't like any hits this game week, really, unless you're like so far behind that you don't have triple Arsenal, double City already, etc. If you're set up with a decent team, then I really just like using free transfers this game week. And with the moves that you've laid out, I think Bruno to KDB is probably the one with the highest upside.
Thanks. And I think the next comment or the next question is a bit of a sort of like a breaking news and the talk of the town right now. So yeah, let me just bring that up. And the question comes from Mushfiq. Tell us something about Man City's crisis currently. What can be their punishment, Alex? What do you think?
I don't want to say too much on it because it's pretty much a lot that's out of our control and beyond our understanding at the current moment. I think the one thing that's notable to say is that it's going to be a very long process, and I don't expect any punishment to come this season, although I have seen certain clubs pushing for that. So I think there's a lot to talk about, but from an FPL perspective, I don't think there's much that's relevant. I think we can just push this aside and it's sort of just a wait and see, especially even for us City fans, of what can you do, pretty much. So not much I can say here.
Yeah, no, and I'm looking at it from a very empathy point of view, at least for the City fans, because they had no role whatsoever in this, but they'll be the one who will be suffering whatever the consequences may be. Yeah, so that's the worst part of it, to be honest.
Okay.
And I think I was reading the Athletic, and I think that kind of summarizes it very clearly as to what it's going to be. And I think there is no sort of a handbook yet when when this question refers to the punishment. I think there's no Premier League handbook that says, if you do this, this is the punishment that you get. So basically, these people, or the three of them who are the panelists or the investigators, have a sort of like a kind of a very powerful position to actually dictate and give a decision that they feel is the suitable punishment. So there is no sort of so the punishment can be very harsh, and the punishment can be absolutely nothing. Yeah. If it is just a sort of like a 20,000 fine or something pound, I think that's something like, probably Sheikh Mansour spends it on a daily basis. Yeah. It's pocket money per
I
day.
think right.
Go
So I
ahead.
think the important thing is here that City has been charged with over the charges are over 100 in numbers. So like Alex said, this will be lengthy because they have been charged with things from since the Man City ownership came into place. So that is we're talking about 2008 and 2009. So that's around you know 12-13 years of documents, 12-13 years of review, etc. So it will be a long process. So the Athletic article is pretty comprehensive regarding what the actual charges would be. I would, if anyone subscribes to Athletic, I would really recommend everyone read that. But the gist of it is that it will be a lengthy process. There will be an independent committee. The independent panel also consists of members who are already, are members of the Court of Arbitration. So this will be a lengthy process, not so ever, and probably there won't be any punishments this season. Even if there is, City can always appeal, and appeal, as we all know, is a longer process altogether. So we don't probably see any, issues on happening of this FPL season whatsoever. Maybe next
Yeah.
season.
I think the timing of it all is a bit of a problem, to be honest. I think Premier League, through this particular thing, is trying to actually. I don't know if many have been following this, but over the last 2 years, there's been a discussion about regulatory bodies being set up by the UK government to actually oversee all this various sort of regulations, including football, where I think Premier League was trying to actually suggest that they are capable of doing their own. And this message, this timing of it, informing suddenly of Manchester City coming up with 100 breaches is a kind of a message that is being sent to that particular attempt to say we can do our own work. Yeah, see, this is what we're doing, and this is one of the biggest clubs. So yeah, here it is. We don't need your interferences here. And I think the game would lose a bit in this entire mess, and I'm sure City is going to come up with all this. I mean, City is going to fight hard. It's not going to be like it's an easy walkover or something. But yeah, it's a long process. Yeah. Now heading back to FPL again, Mushir Rahman Bappi Bhai says KDB or Mahrez.
KDB.
KDB.
It's
Okay.
easy for me.
All right. And then somebody from our channel has actually mentioned, hello, Alex, welcome and glad to have you on our show. Hope it will be a great show. It is turning out to be a great show, and I can see the viewers still there, still watching. It's been 1 hour, 30 minutes already, so we've been discussing more than 1.5 hours, and we still have quite a number of viewers watching it live. So thank you so much, everyone, for all the support that you're showing to us, but also to Alex. This is his first time to our page and, of course, to our channel, but also I think to any Bangladeshi channel. So yeah, glad that we as Bangladeshis are giving him a warm welcome, which is great.
Appreciate it.
Yeah. Sheikh Shuman is then saying City defense kake ki in korbo. Okay, let me just translate that question. It's in Bangla, of course. So he's suggesting which City defense he should transfer in.
Yep, Akanji would be my first pick, followed closely by Lewis and then Ake.
Right. Okay. And then again, oh, sorry, I missed the next one. Again, somebody says, welcome to Ghana Football Fantasy, bro. So that's that. Then Mr. Chaudhary is asking, I got KDB and Haaland. Should I bring third asset from City? Who could it be? Still got triple captainship. when should I play it? Alex, over to you.
Yep, I think Mahrez and Akanji would be the two that I'd look at, though I wouldn't say that either of them are an easy move necessarily. They both come with certain downsides. Both Mahrez with long-term holdability and his prospects for rotation long-term, and Akanji with the just sort of performance of City defense in general. So I don't think that either of them are amazing, blow you out of your seat picks, but Mahrez and Akanji would be the two that I would be considering for that third spot. And then triple captainship, we talked about that a bit before. I do think that this game week with Holland is probably going to be one of the best remaining. I think you're testing your luck if you hold it past this. You could use it on an Arsenal asset like St. Club said in double game week 25, but I don't know. I would rather use it on Holland at this point, and I think this is the best opportunity to do so.
Right. Okay. Then next question comes from Tanmitana. KDB, Mahrez, Saka, Haaland, or Bruno, Mahrez, Saka, Haaland?
It's just
There you go,
KDB
Alex.
versus Bruno, isn't it?
Yeah,
It is.
Yeah, I mean, this just brings us back to the conversation of watch tomorrow's game, judge what Bruno's role is. I personally like the Bruno. I personally like KDB over Bruno as a pick and as a transfer because of the ceiling and because of Bruno's blank in 25. But, could be convinced otherwise depending on what we see against Leeds tomorrow.
Yeah. Right. Okay. And then Shian Naim is saying, welcome to Bangladesh virtually, Alex. Yeah.
Thank you.
So much. Shian Naim then follows up with a question, White, Odegaard, Nketiah or White, Odegaard, Saka, which trio is better? Saif?
Saif, I think
I'm here.
Oh, he's here. Yeah.
I think for me, the best pick from Arsenal are definitely Odegaard and Saka. Then which one you should pair them with? I think for me is the attacker, Nketiah, because he has been showing some great form. And I think Arsenal's attack is a bit better than their defense at the moment. So I would like to attack the double game weeks and the coming double game weeks with triple Arsenal attack. So for me, the trio is Odegaard, Saka, and Nketiah. And given your options here, I would go for the second choice because, as I said, for me, Odegaard and Saka are must-haves. So Odegaard, Saka, and White should be the trio for you.
Right. Thanks for that. Then question comes from Tanmitana. This is to you, Alex. Is Rico Lewis an option to consider for double game week 23?
Definitely one to consider. At 3.9 million, he's super cheap, and obviously that makes it a very easy transfer in. I do think he has quite good odds to start both games in the double game week, but my concern with him long term is more so how often he's going to get subbed out, because in the short time that he has been in the first team, he's been subbed in and out a lot, and that's not really what you want. You don't want him being subbed off, at halftime if he starts. You don't want him coming on in the second half if he's benched. So definitely wanted to consider, definitely a great enabler, but overall, just as a City defender, I don't think that he's going to, I don't think he's going to blow everything out of the water. I think he's going to just be sort of a nice ticker to have in your team. He could come good eventually, but I don't think that he's a standout by any means. Definitely one to consider, though.
Right. Okay. Ashfaq, this is for you. Nketiah or Saka? I have Odegaard.
so. I think Saif already answered this question. So, like I mentioned, that Saka is a good pick on the long term. But for this week, I would definitely probably target Nketiah because of his zonal weakness part. Brentford is probably worst worst in terms of chances conceded to the center, and I think Nketiah can exploit that. But for the long run, I think Saka is the way to go. He's one of the most important players. He's kind of the talisman. He's on penalties. He's on set pieces. So because Arsenal having a stellar season, Saka on the long run will do you good.
Yeah,
Right.
I
I
want
just
to
want
do that for
Yeah.
both of you guys, because you both said Saka over Nketiah. I would ask, do you think that I agree that Saka's the better long-term asset. He's much more consistent and sort of ticks along, and his role is more consistent with whenever Jesus comes back. But with a lot of us likely wild carding sometime between game week 28 and game week 32, and with Jesus coming back around the beginning of that period, do you think that the upside of Nketiah, especially considering if someone has to decide between Nketiah or Saka, given Nketiah's recent stats and given the amount of midfielders available in the game, do you think that Nketiah could be a better pick for the short term, for this sort of medium term, not just short term, over Saka?
I'll let Nadim Bhai answer that first. I'll come back to my.
No, I didn't mention anything about Saka. Sorry. You and Saif mentioned, so go ahead. I don't have Saka, so I cannot personally.
Nketiah certainly seems like the more explosive option because he always is there in the box, so all the chances seem to be falling to him. So I think he can be a very good short-term pick over Saka. But and mentioning that we are all going to wildcard around the time when Jesus will be back, so you can easily shift out Nketiah for Saka. So with those points, I think Nketiah can be a short-term better option than Saka. But for me, I think I think we should move out from Arsenal defense and then just pick the 3. So
Yeah,
that should be my main goal. That should be the try I would target from Arsenal team. So Saka and Nketiah both I think should be coming good over the next few game weeks.
Ashfaq, anything to add? I think he's answered your question already.
Yeah, he did. So, well, the thing with you're planning long term is that with the double game weeks coming up thick and fast, popping up every other game week. So this actually makes our planning in the long term a bit more difficult because the priorities are constantly changing. So even if you're thinking for the long term regarding Saka or Nketiah, it kind of is difficult because, for example, you were probably planning on planning for the blank game weeks of game week 25. Then suddenly the double game week comes up. So there's a bit of uncertainty regarding the double game week. So I don't think in that case you set out a long term plan. I don't think that will actually come into play because the priorities are shifting consistently. Saka, if you do take in Saka, I think he will be a season keeper in your team. That is something that you should look into. So taking Saka, you're taking it for the long term. You wild carding, even if you're wild carding, Saka will probably stay in your team. And with Nketiah, double game weeks coming up, so Nketiah is a easy sell, easy buy, right? Because of his price point. So I think he can be easily shifted out, shifted in as per the double game week and other priorities. So Saka is a more expensive buy. So I think shifting him out or getting him in is a bit more trickier than Nketiah. So if you want to transfer out other player, then Nketiah is the easier one. And if Saka is in your team, I think it should be for the long run. And by long run, I mean the rest of the season. Because like you said, he will tick along and Arsenal having a stellar season this season. So that's my 2 cents on that.
Well, I have 2 cents on it. Since you asked, Alex, I'll give you my short view of it. And I think it's based on a little bit of an experience that I've gone through right now very recently, let's say last 2-3 game weeks. Whether it's long term or whether it's short term, and I'm not going to repeat what Ashfaq and Saif says, and I think I can agree with it. But I think one of the things is, your planning needs to be a bit of a short term, and at the same time, it needs to be a bit of a long term. And I think the key message here is that one shouldn't be, very tunnel vision by the double game week or by the blank game week. Yeah. Like, oh God, he has blank, so let's avoid him. Or oh, he has double, let's just jump onto him. Yeah. And I think that tunnel vision is something that I would ask everybody to avoid. Particularly in my experience, and I've taken him, and I got both the 10 and the 11 points for him. Although people are saying he has double game, blank gaming in 25. 25 is still far away, and Mitoma is just 5.5. And I would say that same thing applies with Nketiah as well. But for Saka, it's a whole different thing. it's an easy move. Somebody like me who might move to Mahrez, from Mahrez, then you can jump on to Saka in game week 24, and then have him for the double game week in 25, and then for the rest of the season. So I think that's the way one should be planning, rather than have this tunnel vision of double game week and blank game week. Yeah, that's the main message that I wanted to really send it out to our audience. Coming back to this question, I just wanted to say to the person who's actually sending this from the group, sorry we cannot read your name because of the privacy rules of Facebook, but just to say, if you're thinking from the short term, Nketiah is definitely the choice, even by the zonal weakness. If you're going for the long term, then I would say don't go for Nketiah, do directly for Saka, because I think that 1 and 2 in terms of ranks in zonal doesn't really make a lot of difference, to be honest. So yeah, if you're thinking long term and you don't want to waste any more transfers, go with Saka. If you are going for short term, go with Nketiah. Yeah, just wanted to say
Go
that.
for
So,
Yeah.
Alex, I'm smiling. The reason I'm smiling is that Nadim is a diplomat by profession, and that was one of the most diplomatic answers that I could think of. You should not plan for the short term. You should not plan for the long term. And I did not get a specific.
You should not plan.
You should not plan altogether.
Thou shall not plan.
He's a diplomat by profession, and his answers actually shows that sometimes. So.
All right, guys. Okay.
If he only has Odegaard, I would say go for both. So
yeah, that's true. That we all agree. That I think Sankalp, whose comment is currently on the screen right now, I think he made it very clear last week that you should just go for all three, and he kind of prioritized exactly who they are. But anyway, Sankalp has sent a comment. We are bringing it up. Alex, Pep's tactics will vary in both the matches. Who do you think will return more in Villa, and which players in Arsenal won? Non-Haaland, of course. I think that's a very important question, and it's a bit of the topic that we kind of discussed. Yeah.
Yeah. One thing I'll start with the Arsenal match. One thing with that's really difficult in predicting Pep, and something that I've consciously tried to stray away from, is that in big matches like this, that Pep could do whatever he wants, pretty much. Is that I would not be surprised to see Pep come out with like a completely new formation against Arsenal and just try to outmanage Arteta. And so pretty much what that all boils down to is that for the Arsenal match, I don't feel like there's anything that I can really say on that, because it's such a sort of unexpected. I don't know whether he's going to stick with the 3-2 for that. I don't know what he's going to do to try to get one up on Arteta. I mean, when we played Arsenal in the FA Cup, Pep did stick with the 3-2, which I would say the 3-2 generally favors Mahrez a little bit. I think he gets good opportunities from that right flank. Otherwise, you're looking at whoever are in the two half spaces with KDB, and then either Gundogan or Bernardo or Alvarez. So if Pep is to stick with a 3-2 for the Arsenal match, then Mahrez would be one to potentially look at, but I can't say that with any real conviction. In terms of the Villa match, I haven't dug too deep on it, because the tactical stuff is sort of what I go to at the end of the week and then make a judgment back on my odds. I would say that the Villa match does feel to me more like a match that we could see KDB explode in. I think Mahrez is always like just sort of in the middle of things. He can always explode. Given that he starts, Mahrez could always explode. He could always just disappear in a match. It's nothing that you can really read into, in my opinion. Grealish off the left, assuming he's going to play, because Foden's coming back from this illness and injury. He just doesn't have the end product right now, in my opinion, to expect anything from him. So it really comes down to, those three other guys around Haaland being the right winger and the two center mids who are going up. And presuming that KDB is going to be playing from his favored right half space, I think KDB would be the one that I would tip to be most likely to return against Villa. And then Mahrez would probably be second in that conversation.
Sankal, just to add to what he has said, I'm not going to go into further tactics, but I would also suggest you read Late Riser's discussion WhatsApp images with Tom Freeman and I think, with Adam Hofcroft. Yeah. And I think they had a pretty interesting discussion about Unai Emery's tactics, of course. And of course, you being an Arsenal fan, so you would know very well how tactically sound Unai Emery is. So yeah, that's another thing that needs to be put in mind in context when we are trying to look into this particular question of yours or trying to find an answer. So yeah, that's just that. Sorry guys, I have to switch on my screen. My internet is fluctuating a little bit, so sorry for that. Otherwise, the whole show might just crash. So sorry for that. Tazid Rahman is asking, Tazid, good to see you, brother, and congratulations once again for being the month manager of the month, of course. And yeah, well done. Keep playing, and I hope you will be able to win again. Yeah. And then he's follow up with a question saying, Martinelli, Botman, March, Watkins, pick 2 for the next 2 game weeks. Saif, can I come to you with this one?
Given that Arsenal have a double game week, so Martinelli should be the player in your first 11, and then Botman, I think they play Bournemouth away. They have a pretty good chance of keeping a clean sheet, so I would play Botman and Martinelli here, and bench March and Watkins.
Okay, right. All right, and then Tamid Hossein Shakil is asking, Laporte or Diaz starting chance? Alex?
I would expect them to both start 1 out of 2. I have them at very similar odds at the moment, both around 80% to start at least 1 game. And then their odds to start 2 out of 2 are quite low at around 30%.
Okay, so that's again coming down to 110 minutes, I would say.
Yeah, my expectation would be 1 start out of 2 for each of them without a substitution on in the other game.
Okay, right. And the next question comes from Mr. Chaudhary. Got Haaland, Kane, Tony in front. Should I transfer out Tony for accommodating Nketiah? Ashfaq, I'll come to you.
Because I think it's a no-brainer for me because Tony does have a tricky fixture with Arsenal, and with the blank game week coming up, Nketiah with, like I already mentioned, Brentford conceding the most number of chances over the last few game weeks to the center. For me, it should be a no-brainer. In fact, I think it should be the priority transfer this week.
Okay, here is a compliment for you, Alex, and this is a big one, and let me just read it out loud. Imran Saeed, who's also our partner when it comes to the Facebook group that we have. It's called FPL Community Bangladesh, and he's from the channel called FPL BD, basically BD for Bangladesh, of course. He says, hi, Alex, good to see you. Regularly follow your content, and you can say a fan of your content. I remember when City faced Nottingham in Game Week 5, I captained Haaland based on your prediction, and he scored a hat-trick where not many people captained him because of possible rotation, including the founder of the channel where Imran Saeed works, of course. So he kind of transferred out Haaland that week, and he then brought in Haaland, and then again he transferred him out, and then Haaland ended up scoring 2 hat-tricks back-to-back. So yeah, well done. Thanks, Imran, for listening to Alex and not listening to your friend Jahangir, who's currently based in the US, of course. Sweet memory that was. A few hours ago, I was reading a thread of yours regarding double gaming strategy and love that. Shield first, sword second. Thank you, brother, for coming here, and best wishes. Yeah.
Appreciate it, Imran. I'm happy to help.
Right. Yeah, I haven't read this Shield first, sword second. I think I need to go back to my Twitter and quickly have a read because I think you mentioned it in your pod as well, but also here you mentioned. So yeah,
I've been doing a little series this week where I'm doing a thread every day, and so yesterday was about calibrating our perspective on City and Arsenal prior to this game week. Today was about planning and just overall idea of how to attack a double game week, and then the next 2 days are going to be about looking at each asset in particular, stuff we've talked about today.
Right. So Mushir Rahman Bapi is asking Foden update.
Yeah, so he traveled with the team to London this past weekend for the Spurs match, and then the night before he got ill out of nowhere, I guess, and was sent back to Manchester, and we haven't had an update since. So he missed the last game because of illness. Before that, he had a little foot injury that kept him out of a match or two a few game weeks ago. But as of now, I would expect him to be in contention for the Villa match. I think he should have gotten over his illness by then, but I wouldn't be touting him to start that Villa match because of that turnaround and everything. I think he's more likely to start the Arsenal match than the Villa match just because of that transition. But yeah, that's all of an update I have for you there.
Right. Next question, Saif. Looking at the size, you can understand it's coming to you. Mid Rashford, Bruno, Almiron, Martinelli, Andreas, striker Kane, Haaland, Tony. Can I go Bruno to KDB? I think that has been answered already several times by Alex, but I'll ask Alex to just chip in that point in a very short way. As United having blanks in Game Week 25, I have 2.8 million in my bank. Need some suggestions. Okay, no, I think this question is not related to Manchester United, so I will ask Saif you not to answer, and I'll pass it on to Alex in this one. Alex?
I'm just trying to digest all the names and see. I mean, I think with this team getting on triple Arsenal, bringing in either Nketiah for Tony or bringing in Odegaard or Saka for Almiron or Andreas would be the top priority, as I think all of us agree Arsenal are the top priority for this game week. After that, I do think, as we said earlier, watch tomorrow's Man U Leeds game if you can, see what Bruno's role is. Generally, I like the Bruno to KDB move, but it should definitely come after you sort out all your Arsenal issues. And I don't love it for -4 also. I think that's worth saying, and that's something I noted on earlier. I think if anyone uses up their free transfers to bring in triple Arsenal and then is still has Bruno and is wondering, should I move Bruno to KDB for a -4? I just don't see I think that -4 just diminishes the upside that KDB has by enough of a margin that you should probably just keep Bruno and not do the move.
Yeah. Thank you. Then question from Tajid Hassan, should I keep Lewis instead of Shaw in Game Week 23?
And then they also have another question after that, if you want to put that up too, that says, will Lewis play both games? It's just
same person as will Lewis play both games in Game Week 23?
Yeah, the first question's a bit, I don't really know how to respond to it because it seems like you have both Lewis and Shaw and you're keen on selling one of them for double Game Week 23. Maybe I'm misinterpreting it, but if you own both of them, I don't think there's a reason to sell either of them for double Game Week 23. I think use your transfers elsewhere. If you're saying, should I buy Lewis for Shaw in double Game Week 23, then that's a bit of a different conversation. And I think priority list, Arsenal first, City attackers next, City defenders after that. So something to consider, but I probably wouldn't say that's a high priority move. And then will Lewis play both games in double Game Week 23? I have him at pretty much a 2/3 chance to start both games in double Game Week 23, just over 66% at the moment. So it's more likely than not, I would say, that he starts both games, but there's certainly a chance that he gets benched in one of them.
Right. Okay. Then comes question from Apurva Chaudhary. Will Mahrez start in both of the matches? I think already Alex has answered, but yeah, Alex, if you can give a short.
Yeah, Mahrez is just about 50% to start both the matches. It's tough to say. I think he has a good shot when I make my final starting 11 predictions. He has a good chance to be in both of my predictions. But just from an odds point of view overall, I think it's about a coin flip as to whether he starts both or just one.
Yeah. He then follows up with another question. Should prioritize Luis over Dunk this game week?
That's a difficult one to answer. And obviously it's very team dependent because of the Brighton blank. You know, if you're well set up for double/blank Game Week 25 or you're thinking of free hitting there as I am, then Dunk is probably the better choice. But if you need to bolster your double Game Week/blank Game Week 25 squad, and then I would probably go with Lewis over Dunk, but that's a really tough one. I don't know. I also don't love using a transfer. I mean, maybe your team is good enough all around, but I don't love using a transfer on that spot this game week when the Arsenal mids and attackers and City mids and attackers are where we should probably be looking.
Right. Okay. The next one is more of a compliment, but also a little bit irrelevant to FPL currently. But again, You being a Manchester City fan, of course, your opinion matters. Mualamin says, hello, Alex. I admire your work. I read your articles and predicted lineup on a regular basis. My question is, will Perón, Argentinian, be an important player for City if Gundogan leaves next summer? As an Argentinian fan, I'm curious about him.
Yeah, well, thanks for the kind words, Mualamin. I hope so. I hope he becomes an important player, whether or not Gundogan leaves. I think Bernardo will definitely leave. I think Gundogan has a better chance to stay, but regardless, City are going to be faced with some midfield issues next season. I hope so. I think there's a chance that he gets loaned out in the summer for a year, but I hope he impresses enough. I've only watched a bit of him, but I'm curious about him as well and really excited for the prospect of him joining City. He's also someone that surprisingly could play in that sort of Rico Lewis type role this season even. So I'm excited to see what happens. I hope that he has a place in the City squad next season.
Right. Next one is a big one, and it has two parts. The first part, I'll come to you, Alex, and you have already discussed this, but again, Samin Rahman is asking, so we'll have to answer that. And the next part, I'll ask Ashfaq to come and answer this one. Got one free transfer, not free hit, sorry. Bruno to KDB, got Mahrez, Haaland, and Martinelli to Odegaard, got White and Nketiah. Is it worth the hit? Then next question is, or Shaw, Botman, Ake, and Martinelli, Saka. In the second case, I won't be able to move to Salah in one move for Game Week 25. Opinions? Yeah. Alex?
I prefer the first set of moves over the latter set of moves. I think if you're taking, sort of like we've said, there's, we talked about Saka versus Nketiah before. I think there's personally even less distance long term between Saka and Odegaard as FPL assets. Saka probably is a bit better long term still, as Saif was saying, but Odegaard is right there with him. So I think comparing that move, I don't mind the funds there that are being lost. And then when we consider the City moves, sort of like I've said throughout this, I think it's better to spend a move in attack than defense ahead of this double game week. Looking at the fixtures individually, with Bruno to KDB, as we've been saying, watch the Man U Leeds game tomorrow if you can. You might be convinced to hold on to Bruno. And if so, then you could maybe just do the Martinelli to Odegaard move and not take a hit. But generally, my response to the first one would be, yeah, I think the Bruno to KDB and Martinelli to Odegaard double move is probably worth a hit. Yeah.
So for a fact that Saif gets emotional when he doesn't get to answer the long questions. So you should take into consideration before giving me this question. I think you also took the last question away from him. So anyway,
Yeah.
so you're the Shaw to
Yeah.
Botman to Ake and Martinelli to Saka. Well, Shaw to Ake is something that, like Alex mentioned, is the highest chance of starting both games is probably Akanji. After that, it's probably Rico Lewis, and then comes to Ake as per Alex's predictions, and his predictions are mostly spot on. So there is the risks there. Botman, he has a good fixture against Bournemouth, I think. So I fully expect him to keep a clean sheet. Shaw also has a good fixture against Leeds. So Leeds are without a manager, so they are both good assets to keep, I think, rather than go for Ake, because if he only starts one of those games, I think the upside is very, very low. Martinelli to Saka is a move that I would personally make. It's because of two reasons. We had a detailed discussion with Sankalp in the last pod, and we had a discussion regarding Martinelli's role after Zinchenko has come in and Jesus, going out of the team because of his injury. So what happens is that what you've seen that with Zinchenko coming in, that Zinchenko is more of a inverted left back. So which means he comes through the middle, gets into assisting or scoring positions through the middle, which actually drifts Martinelli more out wide. As a result, he has been playing in a more deeper, wider role, and as a result, I think his attacking prospects has gone. Although his statistically he's showing good promise, but attacking wise or the eye catching wise, he looks like he has drifted a bit more wide. So I think he had a better understanding with Jesus. They were exchanging positions, etc., getting more into each other's positions. So that is not there anymore. So with Zinchenko coming in, Martinelli has become more of a wide player. So I think that diminishes his promise a bit. The second reason is that with Trossard coming in, I think it really eats into Martinelli's minutes. So that is also a concern. Trossard is a genuine FPL asset, although still think Martinelli is the first choice attacker for Arteta. But Trossard, with his pedigree, will most likely eat into Martinelli's minutes. So that also diminishes a bit of the point potential for him. So as a result, Martinelli to Saka or Odegaard should be the recommendation of the transfer you want to go to.
Thanks. The next one I'll answer. Mitu Mustaq is asking any suggestion on UCL fantasy about picking up Liverpool players. Brother, we don't play UCL fantasy, neither do we produce any sort of content for UCL, unfortunately. We'll keep this suggestion in mind and maybe perhaps next season we'll think about it. But yeah, we can't at this moment.
Avoid Liverpool players.
And he's a Liverpool fan, by the way. So yeah.
Stay away from Liverpool. Liverpool is
Okay.
the worst club in the world on current form. I think they will
Okay.
lose to Abahoni.
Okay. What I would do is I would make a short clip out of it, put it on my page in case some Liverpool fans come running back again, like we are back again playing heavy metal football.
Right.
Yeah.
Saif saying don't go for Liverpool, avoid Liverpool. This should be on a loop. This video should be on a loop.
Yeah, this should be on a loop. Yeah.
This video should be on a loop.
I never pick players on club loyalty anyway, so it doesn't matter. Go for the form and fixture.
Question for Alex. Okay, let's not, guys. It's already 2 hours, and we have quite overstretched ourselves already. Let's try and quickly finish. There are a couple of questions left, so let's try and be as quick as possible. Let's not keep Alex waiting for too long. Yeah. I've Walker for a long time, and I don't have any free transfers. Should I play him or double game week or dunk? Alex?
That's a tough one. I was looking at this trying to come up with an answer ahead of time too, and I just can't. I don't know. It comes down to how you view Brighton's clean sheet potential against Palace, really, because if you expect Brighton to keep a clean sheet against Palace, I would start Dunk. If you don't, then I would start Walker and just cross your fingers and hope for the best.
Right. Okay. George Hamilton is then for sent a question. Got Martinelli and White and KDB and Haaland should triple up on both teams or one. Who could be the third option? Okay, Saif, I'll come to you again with this one.
I think we should definitely triple up on Arsenal because we have been mentioning time and again that they have the best fixtures and they don't have any blank to come up. They have 2 double game weeks to come up. So Arsenal triple up is a must for me. So Martinelli, White, I would even go as far as taking out Martinelli and going for both Odegaard or Saka. If you have the fund, I would go for Saka and then Nketiah. So Nketiah or Saka should be the other 2 options from Arsenal. But if you want to keep Martinelli, then go for Nketiah. And then KDB and Haaland, I think, as Alex have been mentioning, that we cannot really guess which City player comes up with the most points after KDB and Haaland, and which City player that actually has the most minutes potential, and also their defense is a bit of a minefield. They have been leaking goals, so I think triple up is not really a must from City. So KDB and Haaland both can be good options. I think triple up can be avoided and just prioritize bringing in the Arsenal players.
Yeah, thanks. I passed this question to you because it's already Alex made it quite clear earlier in terms of priority who should be. So yeah, didn't want to get into the City discussion again. because Alex has repeatedly answered that already. Anupam Das is asking Mitra to Nketiah. Ashfaq?
Yeah, I think I would make that move. Although Mitrovic has a good fixture on paper against Nottingham Forest, and Nottingham Forest has shown some, form of late. But Nketiah, I think, has the higher ceiling over the next 2 game weeks. So definitely is a move I would make.
Right. Okay, Imran Said has followed up with a question. Thoughts on Mahrez? Is it worth a buy in double gaming 23? Also, which three assets are the best City assets according to you, Alex?
Yep, I think Mahrez is a good pick for double game week 23 and beyond. Not an amazing pick. I think with time he becomes a worse and worse FPL asset. So I think he's potentially worth a buy if you are sort of in the privileged position to already have triple Arsenal and likely already have Holland and KDB as well. Then yeah, in that case he's probably worth a buy. And then for the final thing, Holland followed by KDB, and then there's quite a distance between KDB and the next asset, which Mahrez would probably be my third favorite City asset.
Right. Okay. Then Mohammad Sajjad is asking between Ake and Akanji, who should I go for?
I would go for Akanji.
Right. Okay. And then Kondokar Ridwan is asking, should I drop KDB for Salah? As Liverpool has double gaming in 25.
Not yet. Maybe. I mean, I think one of the I was going to say this earlier with the hokey cokey between Bruno and KDB, with the double announcement for Salah in 25, it almost makes the hokey cokey a bit better because you can go Bruno to KDB now, and then you can save that price point in your team to move KDB onto Salah either in 24 or 25. So I like that move later down the line, but obviously not before KDB doubles in game week 23.
Yeah. And then Kondokar Rizwan has followed up with another question. Saka, Haaland, captain next game week? I think Haaland is the obvious choice, brother. I don't want to go into my Haaland rant. Yeah, usually I do that when it comes to captaincy. I usually have a very long rant about Haaland captaincy. I mean, I discourage people from experimenting captaincy this season. Yeah, except when there is absolutely a clear need, and it's obvious. Like this week was quite obvious. Like you should go and captain Manchester United players. But yeah, beside that, I always tend to go on with Haaland, and I have a rant for it.
Right. So
yeah.
Haaland's numbers have been exceptional. I was also talking about this in the last part that Callum Wilson has recently said that the Golden Boot is already Haaland's, so there should be a mini competition between the other goal scoring so that they get the silver boot or something like that. So his performance charts has been his performance has been off the charts. So he's something else this season.
Right.
Thanks for the information.
Yeah, there are just two more, I think, 2 or 3 more. Yeah, 3 more. Yeah, and then we are done because the rest we have taken already. Asaduzaman Shorav, Mahrez should subbed off early in Spurs match. Safe pick, Mahrez or KDB?
KDB still has the higher X minutes for me and expected starts. I think people read a bit too much into early substitutions and whatnot, especially when a game isn't within 2 to 3 days of the next. So I wouldn't read into that too much. KDB still has better odds to start generally than Mahrez.
Right. Okay. Tamid Hassan Nafiz is asking Almiron to Mahrez for a -4. Is it a good move?
I don't think so personally. I think I mentioned this earlier, and I've talked about it on Twitter too. I think with these players, once you get past bringing in the 3 best Arsenal mids and attackers, I don't think a -4 for anyone this game week is really that good. With Mahrez, I said earlier, I think his ceiling is like 12 to 14 points this game week, and I don't expect him to get there. I think that's just the sort of highest he could get. And, even if he tops out at that, with a -4, it's not going to net you that many points. So I just think there's too much room for that move to negatively impact you. I don't think the upside is really there to back a move like that for a hit.
Saif, Martinelli to whom? Saka or Odegaard?
Saka.
Okay, Ashfaq Apurva Chaudhary is asking which midfielder should I bench for game week 23? Mahrez, Odegaard, Rashford, Bruno, Mitoma, Kane, Haaland, Nketiah, White, Trippier, Shaw. These are my other players. Sorry, Ashfaq.
So, like I said, Saif is again
Whose
getting
cat was it,
emotional.
by the way?
You can see by his face.
I am emotionally very
Uh,
happy.
Whose cat
I
is
need
it?
a
Whose cat was it making that meow sound? Come on.
Ashfaq Bhai, I think.
that was mine. That was mine,
Okay.
definitely.
Good to know. Good to know.
Mine is in
Okay.
the other room.
This is him.
Good. Yeah.
This
All
is
right.
him.
Go on.
So he has Mahrez, Odegaard. No, Mahrez. Oh no, he's asking about which midfield out of those: Mahrez, Odegaard, Rashford, Bruno, Mitoma, Kane, Haaland, Nketiah, White, Trippier, Shaw. These are my other players.
Yeah, they have a 3-4-3, and they need to bench one of the 5 mids.
That's where Donald comes in and bench Mito.
Yeah.
It's
So
got to be Matoma, right?
yeah, but so if he hasn't made his transfers already, Bruno to KDB could be an option. But if he has made his transfers already, that's a different question altogether.
That doesn't solve his benching problem.
Yeah. It doesn't solve his benching problem.
Yeah.
Mitoma, it has
Interesting.
to be Mitoma.
So my answer to this would be to, like Alex already mentioned, is that you should watch the Leeds game and take a take a look into what Bruno's positioning it be, because like Nadim already said that Casemiro is injured, which means Bruno might play a deeper role in the United midfield right now. So if you see in the Leeds game that he is indeed playing a deeper role,
Anthony
I
is out,
think
so I think he would play through the right. Anthony is out of the
so.
Leeds game.
So that is what I'm trying to mention, is that you should watch the Leeds game and make a decision, because Mitoma on the other side, well, he's been scoring goals and scoring points. Whenever he scores, he usually gives around 9 to 10 points at Leeds. So Nadim Bhai, has been exploiting that altogether. So watch the Leeds game, then make a decision. But it should be one of probably Bruno and Mitoma. So take your pick. Bruno, I know, being an pricier mid is probably difficult to bench. But you should take a look into the Leeds game and then make your decision.
I would bench Kane
Uh,
because Kane's ceiling is the lowest for me.
I would not bench Kane.
He
I would
doesn't
not.
give more than 8 points.
Well, it's a dilemma. I don't think so. Anybody would be able to satisfy you, Apurva Chaudhary, to be honest. Any
If he
answer
has
we
not made his transfer yet, I would say look into Bruno to KDB. If he has made his transfers, then it's a different question altogether.
Once again, that doesn't solve his benching problem.
yeah, that doesn't solve his benching problem. And I think
Then Mitoma is the one to bench. Then the Mitoma is definitely the one to bench. That definitely solves his benching problem.
I'll just bring the zonal here. I'll just bring the zonal here to suggest at least because I think he's asking us to be benched. Who should be benched? I don't think so. Bruno Fernandes should be benched because Leeds have conceded 18 chances down that left flank they are the worst side over there. Whereas when it comes to Mitoma, let me just minimize this one and then I can see a little bit. Yeah, there it is. Crystal Palace have just conceded 3 chances and are ranked 19th. So yeah, probably Mitoma would be the one.
That's why I said this while I was covering the zonal weakness, that people would have benching problem this game week. So you might have to bench Brighton players.
Yeah, you might have to, but this guy Apurva has a very interesting dilemma, to be honest. And I think any answer that we give you, brother, might not be according to your satisfaction, to be honest. So yeah, go with your gut, but we would suggest if you want to take a opinion, I would suggest go with Mitoma because of the zonal weakness that we are trying to refer to you. Yeah, I think that solves the problem. Let's go to the next one. I've had both KDB and Bruno. How about Bruno to Saka? I have already Martinelli. Yeah, Saif. Bruno to Saka. That's an interesting
How about
one.
Martinelli to Saka?
I don't
If
know.
you can afford that, I think I would go for Martinelli to Saka. But if you can't, I think it can be an interesting option. So you can have 3 double game week players in Martinelli, KDB, and Saka is a long term hold. So I think it is an interesting move. So let's see what Bruno does in the Leeds game, and if he shows some sort of decrease in form, I think you can do Bruno to Saka, because it gets you a double gimmick player, also gets you a player for the blank gimmick 25. So I think it's a move worth making.
Yeah, and this is the last one. Tamid Hassan Nafiz is asking, is Mahrez going to start 2 matches?
I have him at about 50% odds to start 2 matches. I think it's quite a bit of a toss-up as to whether he starts both, mostly because of the uncertainty of what Pep can do tactically in the Arsenal match.
All right, and this is it. No more questions, no more answers. I'll take quick opinions of 4 players this Farhan Apan should choose. Just mention the 4 players, that's it. I'll start with you, Saif, first.
So once again, this is the same benching dilemma. So going by the zonal, we have to bench Mitoma here.
Okay. Ashfaq?
Yeah, between them, this does not have the Bruno dilemma here. So between them, definitely Mitoma.
I agree.
Okay. I would bench, in this case, Martinelli. I think that man is completely and totally out of form. He's playing too wide, and I wouldn't really go with him. And I think this is something that we've been hoping, and I think hope that kills. Martinelli is one, to be honest. I mean, since the restart, we've been hoping he'll fire. He'll do something. His zonal had been good all the time, and I just had a quick look at my review of all the zonal, and every time we have mentioned Martinelli since the restart, it's been all wrong. So there you go. So Martinelli should be the one here. I would go and bench, not a form player. And I think why I'm suggesting is that it's form over zonal in this case. Mitoma is on form, and in this case, I would suggest Martinelli. But yeah, if it was not Martinelli and somebody else, let's say for Bruno example, then I would have definitely gone with Mitoma. Yeah. So yeah, I think that really concludes all the discussion and the questions. Alex, you've been a wonderful guest, sitting here with us for 2 hours, more than 2 hours, and answering all the questions, discussing everything. And I think we have made a bad impression about ourselves, to be honest. Trying to drag you here and then politely bringing you in, and then kind of getting you trapped into this never-ending loop of questions and answers and discussions. Sorry for that.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for having me on.
Thank you so much, and thank you so much to everyone for joining us today. And Alex, I hope this is not your first and the last one, and definitely I hope I will be having you more often, perhaps. But it's been a pleasure to listen to you. Thank you so much to be able to interact, to listen to all your thoughts, unpack it, and then prioritize and select. It's been a pleasure. At least I, on behalf of Ghana Football, would be happy to bring you once again. And I'm sure the audience, you have seen the reactions, you have seen the comments. I'm sure they would be delighted to have you back again. Saif, any last words? Ashfaq, any last words before we say Alex goodbye and say everybody goodbye? Close for the night.
Yeah, so I just want to add that we have a lot of guests in the show, and between ourselves we usually talk football or FPL from points perspective and FPL perspective, etc. So what's refreshing to speak about with Alex is the tactical perspective, the actual footballing tactics, or the strategy behind actual football games. So it's really a refreshing intake on from FPL perspective to actually talk about football and how you should attack a team strategically based on coaching tactics and strategies. So that is something actually different and to talk about, and refreshing in fact to talk about with Alex. So based on strategies alone is a discussion if I had with Alex, and I would probably take all of his day and talk about football strategies all day. So I think he's been very patient with us. uh, he's been over here 2 hours, so again we apologize for that, but we actually I personally actually love speaking to you, especially about tactics. I think it's very, very refreshing because mostly our discussion is on FPL points and etc. But to speak about tactically and strategy is really something we would like to do regularly. And one other thing that I just wanted to mention, that although we mostly speak about football in these shows, there are other concerns worldwide that sometimes we should take into consider. So our thoughts and prayers should be with the Turkey and the Syria earthquakes and the people affected. More than 5,000, I think, are already confirmed to be deceased. So our thoughts and prayers should be on that for the global football community and the ones affected.
We all remember Christian Atsu, right? He used to play for, I think,
Yeah,
Newcastle.
yeah. He was a big part player for Chelsea. I saw the post that you.
He was
gave,
also
yeah.
play. He also played for Newcastle. So he was luckily he was in the accident. He was luckily rescued alive from the rebels. So he's in the hospital right now. And some other players, I think, is also injured. I think some of the players or club officials of the club name is Hatispor, something like that. So they are still unaccounted for. So let's pray for them too. And
Right.
thank you, Alex. I think we know that you are not used to these big pods or big shows. So thanks a lot for being with us and bearing Ashfaq Bhai's monologues. So thanks a lot for your patience. We will be
Right.
really
It was
glad
a long
if you
show for. It was a long
if you
show
come
for
back
him. It
and
wasn't.
join
It
us.
wasn't long for you.
Come back and join us sometime soon.
For sure, hopefully.
On that note, guys, Alex, stay safe. You never know. Christian Atsu scored last-minute goal the day before the earthquake, and then went home, made the whole region happy, only to find himself being buried in the rubble the next day. So you never know what's waiting for us around the corner. So just stay safe. All the best wishes from us, and thank you so much for joining.
Yep. Thank you, guys. Thank you for having me.
Audience, you've been wonderful. Thank you so much. Take care, and we'll see you for Game Week 24. Bye-bye.
Bye bye.
Thank you for having us.